The lucky salvage. The alarm on Dominic Reed's oxygen tank chimed softly, warning him he had 30 minutes of breathable air left. Just enough time to finish checking the wreckage field before retreating to his ship, the Wayward Nomad. Space salvaging. Wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills, usually. Another bust, he muttered, kicking a worthless piece of twisted metal and watching it float away in the low gravity of the abandoned moon. His last 3 expeditions had yielded nothing but scrap metal, barely covering fuel costs. Dominic adjusted, his helmet's visor, squinting against the harsh glare of the distant sun. Something glinted on the horizon, different from the dull gray of scattered debris. He activated his boot thrusters and glided toward the anomaly. As he approached, his heart rate quickened. The object was clearly alien in origin. A sleek, oblong pod about the size of a small shuttle. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent blue material unlike any human alloy. Most importantly, it appeared completely intact. "Jackpot," he whispered, his voice echoing inside his helmet. The pod showed no obvious entry points. Dominic ran his gloved hand over the smooth surface, feeling a subtle warmth emanating from within. Suddenly, the material beneath his fingers rippled like water, and a small section dissolved away, creating an entrance just large enough for him to squeeze through. "Definitely not human tech," he said, checking his radiation scanner. Nothing dangerous registered. Taking a deep breath, he climbed inside. The interior was surprisingly spacious, bathed in a soft blue light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The walls pulsed gently like a heartbeat. In the center of the pod sat a small crystalline device no larger than his palm. "Please don't be a weapon," Dominic muttered as he carefully picked up the crystal. The moment his fingers closed around, the entire pod hummed to life. Light erupted from the crystal, coalescing into the form of a woman, or something like a woman. Her skin was the color of twilight, with patterns that resembled constellations swirling across her bare shoulders. Her hair floated around her head as if underwater, shimmering with colors that had no names in human language. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, contained galaxies. Dominic stumbled backward, nearly falling through the pod's entrance. "What the—" "Greetings, traveler," the hologram said, her voice melodic and multi-layered, as if several people were speaking in perfect harmony. "I am Thalassa, princess of the Luminary Collective." "I'm Dominic," he replied stupidly, unable to tear his eyes away from the mesmerizing figure. "Dominic," she repeated, the name sounding exotic in her musical voice. "Your neural patterns indicate compatibility. This is most fortunate." "Compatible for what?" Dominic asked, the oxygen warning in his helmet beeping more insistently now. Thalassa's holographic form smiled, an expression somehow both alien and intimately familiar. "For union, of course. I have traveled across 17 galaxies to find you." Dominic's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." "In simple terms that your species would comprehend," Thalassa said, her form floating closer to him. "I am asking you to become my mate, what you might call a husband." The oxygen alarm wailed urgently. Dominic stared at the alien hologram, his mind reeling. "I need to get back to my ship," he said finally. "Take me with you," Thalassa replied, gesturing to the crystal in his hand. "I have much to explain, and your air supply is depleting rapidly." With trembling hands, Dominic secured the crystal in his suit's pocket. As he exited the pod, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just changed irrevocably. Whatever this alien princess wanted from him, one thing was certain. This salvage run was anything but ordinary. The interstellar proposal. The Wayward Nomad wasn't much to look at. A retrofitted cargo hauler with mismatched hull plates and outdated navigation systems, but to Dominic, it was home. He placed the crystal on the ship's central console, watching, as Thalassa's hologram materialized once more, her ethereal form illuminating the dimly lit cockpit. "Your vessel is quaint," she observed, her luminescent eyes scanning the cramped quarters filled with salvaged trinkets and half-eaten ration packs. Dominic removed his helmet, running a hand through his sweat-dampened hair. It gets me where I need to go. Now, about this marriage proposal. I don't even know what you are, let alone why you want to marry me. Thalassa's form glided closer, leaving a trail of starlight in her wake. I am the last royal daughter of the Luminari, a civilization that thrived when your species was still learning to control fire. She waved her translucent hand, and suddenly the cockpit disappeared. Dominic found himself standing among towering crystal spires that reached impossibly high into a lavender sky. Beings of light moved through magnificent floating gardens. This was Lumina Prime, our homeworld. Thalassa's voice echoed around him. 10,000 years ago it was destroyed by the Vraxian Empire, a race of conquerors who feared our technological advancement. The beautiful vision shattered, replaced by scenes of devastation, crystal cities crumbling, light beings screaming silently as their forms dissipated into the void. A few of us escaped. We scattered across the universe, embedding our consciousness into preservation pods like the one you found. The illusion faded, returning them to the ship's interior. I have been searching for a compatible being for centuries. Dominic shook his head, trying to process everything. But why me? And why marriage? The Luminari cannot exist as mere consciousness indefinitely. We must bond with compatible organic life to survive. Thalassa's form shimmered with vulnerability. Your neural patterns, your genetic structure, they are harmonious with mine. Such compatibility is exceedingly rare. So this is a survival mechanism? Dominic asked, oddly disappointed. Thalassa's expression softened. It is that, yes, but in our culture the bond is sacred. Not unlike your concept of marriage, we do not seek such unions lightly. She floated closer, her holographic hand reaching toward his face but stopping just short of touching him. The pod contains more than my consciousness, Dominic Reed. It houses the genetic heritage of my entire species, technology that could advance humanity by millennia, and secrets that would transform your understanding of the universe. And all this can be mine if I just say I do? Dominic asked skeptically. The process is more complex than verbal agreement, Thalassa explained. It requires a neural synchronization that would bind us. We would share thoughts, experiences, memories. You would remain human, but enhanced. And I would live again, through you. Dominic stood up, pacing the small cockpit. This is insane. 24 hours ago I was just a down-on-my-luck salvager, and now an alien princess wants to share my brain. I understand your hesitation, Thalassa said, but there is another matter of urgency. Her form flickered momentarily. The Vraxian Empire still exists. They have hunter drones scanning the sector. If they detect my pod's energy signature, a shrill alarm cut her off. The ship's proximity sensors flashed red. Unknown vessel approaching, announced the ship's AI. Configuration matches no known human design. Dominic rushed to the viewport. A sleek predatory craft had appeared, its obsidian hull absorbing rather than reflecting starlight. It was unmistakably alien and closing fast. Vraxian hunter, Thalassa whispered, her holographic form trembling. They've found us. How did they track us so quickly? Dominic demanded, scrambling to the controls. The activation of my consciousness sent a quantum ripple through space-time. They've been waiting for such a signal for millennia. Her voice grew urgent. You must decide now, Dominic Reed. Leave me behind and save yourself, or accept my proposal and gain the knowledge to fight them. The Vraxian ship fired a warning shot across the Nomad's bow. The entire vessel shuddered. Some proposal, Dominic muttered, fingers flying across the navigation console. Do I at least get a honeymoon before we're blown to atoms? Despite everything, Thalassa's melodic laugh filled the cockpit. If we survive, I promise you wonders beyond your imagination. Dominic glanced at the beautiful hologram, then at the menacing alien ship. He had nowhere to run, no weapons to fight with, and a mysterious alien consciousness offering him power beyond human comprehension. What the hell? He said, grabbing the crystal. I was getting bored with salvaging anyway. How do we do this? Thalassa's form glowed brighter. Place the crystal against your forehead and open your mind to me. As the Vraxian ship prepared to fire again, Dominic raised the crystal to his brow and closed his eyes, wondering if he was making the biggest mistake of his life or beginning the greatest adventure. Hunted through the stars, fire erupted behind Dominic's eyes as the crystal touched his forehead. His consciousness expanded like a supernova, memories that weren't his own cascading through his mind. Crystal cities beneath twin moons, conversations, in languages no human had ever heard, the terrifying approach of Vraxian warships with their blood-red energy weapons. Then suddenly, clarity. He was still himself, but more. Knowledge flowed through him like electricity, and he could feel Thalassa's presence in his mind. Separate but connected like two stars locked in orbit around each other. The neural integration is complete. Thalassa's voice echoed inside his head, though her hologram still hovered before him. You now have access to Luminari knowledge. Dominic's fingers moved across the ship's controls with newfound confidence. I know how to modify the engine's output signature, he said, surprised by his own words. We can mask our energy trail. The wayward Nomad's engines hummed with new power as Dominic implemented changes that would have been incomprehensible to him hours ago. The pursuing Vraxian vessel fired again, but Dominic executed a maneuver that should have torn his shabby ship apart. Instead, the Nomad responded like a precision instrument, evading the blast. The nearest jump point is in the Cassiopeia sector, Thalassa said, her hologram pointing to a star chart that Dominic suddenly understood perfectly. We can lose them in the Veiled Nebula. As they accelerated away from their pursuer, Dominic felt a strange tingling in his fingertips. He looked down to see patterns of light, similar to those on Thalassa's skin, beginning to form on his hands. Side effect of the bond, Thalassa explained, noticing his concern. Your body is adapting to Luminari energy. The changes are superficial. For now. For now? Dominic asked, navigating through a dense asteroid field that would slow the heavier Vraxian ship. What other surprises should I expect from our arrangement? Thalassa's hologram shifted closer. Your cellular regeneration will improve. Your lifespan will extend significantly, and you'll develop certain abilities as your neural pathways adapt to Luminari consciousness, such as photonic manipulation, matter resonance, possibly limited, telepathy with other bonded beings. She paused. Each bonding is unique. The full effects will emerge over time. Dominic spotted a gap in the asteroid field and slipped the Nomad through. And what do you get out of this besides survival? Experience, she replied softly. The chance to live again, not just exist as data, to feel the universe through organic senses. Her holographic hand passed through his shoulder in a gesture that would have been a touch. And companionship. The bond is intimate, Dominic, in ways beyond physical. He felt a wave of emotion, not his own, but Thalassa's. Loneliness, hope, and something deeper that made his heart race. Before he could respond, the ship's sensors blared again. They're still following, he said, checking the scanners. And they've called for backup. 2 more ships approaching from the Procyon sector. Thalassa's form flickered with concern. The Vraxians fear what we might become together. A successful Luminari human bond could create a being powerful enough to threaten their empire. No pressure, Dominic muttered, setting course for the Veiled Nebula. How did your people even cross paths with these Vraxians? You're basically living light and they're consumed by darkness, Thalassa finished. The Vraxians evolved in a system dominated by a dying star. They developed technology to harvest energy from other species to survive. When they discovered the Luminari, beings of pure energy, they saw us as the ultimate resource. The ship shuddered as a glancing hit struck their aft shields. Dominic swore, executing another evasive pattern. We need a better plan than just running, he said. Is there anywhere safe? Anyone who might help us? Thalassa was quiet for a moment. There is one possibility. An old ally of my people settled on a planet in what you call the Horsehead Nebula. A being named Japheth who chose exile over conformity with Vraxian rule. If he still lives. That's a big if, Dominic said, plotting the new course. And it's 3 jumps away. We'll need to refuel. Thalassa's hologram expanded, overlaying a map of nearby systems onto the viewport. This outpost, Helios Station. It's a trading hub known for discretion. We can acquire fuel and supplies. As they approached the jump point, Dominic felt another surge of alien knowledge. He understood jump mechanics now at a level that would make Earth's top physicists weep with envy. There's something you're not telling me, he said, sensing reservation in Thalassa's thoughts. About this bond, about what happens next. Thalassa's hologram shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. The bond is incomplete. What we've done is merely the first stage, enough to share knowledge and basic abilities. The full union is more profound. How profound are we talking? In time, my consciousness could fully merge with yours. We would become a single entity, neither fully luminary nor fully human, but something new, something unprecedented. Dominic's hands paused over the controls. And that's what the Vraxians are afraid of? Yes. The full potential of such a union is unknown even to my people. It was theorized but never attempted before our destruction. Her form moved closer, eyes searching his. But that choice remains yours, Dominic. I will not force a complete merger. The proximity alarm screamed again as the Vraxian ship closed the gap. Dominic made his decision, punching in the final coordinates for the jump. Let's survive today first, he said, as the stars around them stretched into lines of light. Then, we can worry about becoming an unprecedented hybrid being with unknown powers. As the wayward nomad leapt into hyperspace, Dominic felt Thalassa's amusement rippling through their shared consciousness. Whatever lay ahead, at least he wasn't facing it alone anymore. The secret of the pod Helios station loomed before them, a sprawling structure of interconnected habitats and docking bays suspended in the shadow of a gas giant. Unlike the sleek elegance of Earth's space stations, Helios was a hodgepodge of salvaged ship parts, repurposed mining platforms, and makeshift additions, a testament to humanity's resourcefulness at the edge of explored space. Charming, Thalassa commented as they approached. Your species has a unique talent for creating order from chaos. Dominic guided the nomad toward a less conspicuous docking bay. It's not much, but Helios operates outside Federation jurisdiction. Nobody asks questions as long as you pay the docking fee. His hand, now covered in faint luminescent patterns, reached for the crystal containing Thalassa's hologram projector. I should probably hide this while we're here. Keep it close, she warned. Our bond allows me to maintain consciousness even when the crystal is inactive, but distance weakens the connection. Dominic secured the crystal in an inner pocket of his jacket. How long do we have before our Vraxian friends track us here? Hours, perhaps. The hyperspace jump and the gas giant's electromagnetic field will confuse their sensors temporarily. Thalassa's hologram flickered. But there's something about the pod we need to discuss before we continue. Let me guess. More life-altering secrets. Dominic docked the ship with practiced ease. The pod you found isn't merely a vessel for my consciousness, Thalassa explained. It contains the complete genetic repository of the Luminari civilization. Thousands of my people in suspended animation at the molecular level. Dominic froze. You mean, with the right equipment, the Luminari could be reborn? Not as pure energy beings as we once were, but as hybrid entities like what you and I are becoming. Her holographic eyes held his. The pod is the last hope for my entire species. And you trusted this information to a salvage operator you just met? Dominic shook his head in disbelief. The bond doesn't lie, Dominic. I saw your heart the moment our minds connected. Her form moved closer. Your compassion, your longing for purpose beyond mere survival, your fundamental decency despite the harsh life you've lived. A warmth spread through Dominic that had nothing to do with the neural bond. So the pod back, on that moon, is the true treasure. The crystal you carry is merely a fragment, containing my consciousness and basic luminary technology. The pod houses everything else, including the key to defeating the Vraxians. Dominic stepped out of the ship into Helios Station's artificial atmosphere, keeping his voice low. And what exactly is this key? A quantum resonance weapon developed in the final days of our civilization. It disrupts the Vraxian energy absorption process, rendering their technology useless. Thalassa's voice echoed in his mind now, her hologram temporarily deactivated. But the weapon was never deployed. Our scientists completed it just as our homeworld fell. Dominic moved through the crowded station, nodding to fellow spacers while maintaining a brisk pace toward the fuel depot. Aliens of various species mingled with humans, but none resembled the descriptions of Vraxians that now filled his mind. Tall, gaunt humanoids with ash-gray skin and eyes that absorbed light rather than reflected it. So our new plan is what? Go, back for the pod, recover this weapon, and take on an entire empire? Dominic purchased fuel cells from a bored-looking vendor. That's suicide. Not with Japheth's help. His people, the Kalians, were master engineers who helped design the weapon. If anyone can activate it after all this time, it's him. As they headed back toward the Nomad with their supplies, Dominic noticed a group of station security officers, examining docking manifestos more carefully than usual. One pointed in their direction. "We've got company," he muttered, casually changing course toward a busy marketplace. "Someone's looking for us." Vraxians often employ proxies among other species, Thalassa warned. They offer substantial rewards for information. Dominic ducked into an alley between habitat modules, heart pounding. 3 officers split up, clearly searching for someone. He pressed himself against a wall, watching as one approached his position. Suddenly, the patterns on his skin brightened. Without conscious thought, Dominic raised his hand and the officer's eyes slid past him as if he were invisible. "Light manipulation," Thalassa explained as the officer moved away. "You're bending photons around your body, a basic luminary defense mechanism. A little warning would have been nice," Dominic whispered, staring at his glowing skin in amazement. "Your instincts activated the ability. The bond is progressing faster than expected." There was concern in her mental voice. "We should leave. Immediately." They made their way back to the ship through service corridors. As Dominic prepared for departure, a priority message flashed on the ship's communication system. A bounty notice with his face and the Wayward Nomad's registration prominently displayed. Attention. All sectors, 500,000 credits for information. Leading to the capture of Dominic Reed and associated alien technology. Approach with extreme caution. Subject may possess dangerous abilities. Well, that's flattering, Dominic muttered, rushing through the launch sequence. They think I'm dangerous. You are becoming dangerous. To them, Thalassa replied as her hologram reappeared. The abilities you're developing threaten their entire power structure. The Nomad detached from the station just as alarms began to sound. Dominic pushed the engines beyond safe parameters, and they broke free into open space. "Setting course back to the moon," he said, fingers dancing across the navigation panel. "If that pod is as important as you say, we can't leave it unguarded." "The Vraxians will be expecting that," Thalassa warned. "Exactly why we need to hurry." Dominic initiated the jump sequence, "And why you need to teach me everything you can about these new abilities before we get there." As the ship accelerated into hyperspace, Dominic caught his reflection in the viewport glass. The patterns on his skin had spread further, and his eyes now held the same galaxy-like depth as Thalassa's. He was changing, becoming something neither human nor luminary. "The final stage of bonding approaches," Thalassa said softly, reading his thoughts. "Soon you must decide whether to complete our union or remain as we are now." "Let's focus on surviving first," Dominic replied, though deep inside he already knew his answer. The universe had suddenly become larger, more wondrous, and infinitely more dangerous, and he had no intention of facing it halfway. The Wayward Nomad dropped out of hyperspace near the desolate moon where everything had begun. Dominic's enhanced vision immediately spotted 3 Vraxian vessels in orbit around the small celestial body. their obsidian hulls absorbing starlight, like cosmic predators. They haven't detected us yet, he said, utilizing the luminary cloaking techniques Thalassa had taught him during their journey. But they've definitely found the pod. Through their shared consciousness, Dominic felt Thalassa's concern ripple like waves through still water. We cannot allow them to access the genetic repository. If they harness luminary DNA, they could create energy beings designed for harvesting. Dominic studied the tactical display, his mind processing strategies with newfound clarity. The neural bond had accelerated over the past hours. The luminescent patterns now covered most of his body, and he could manipulate light and energy in ways that would have seemed miraculous weeks ago. I have a plan, he said finally. But you're not going to like it. I can already see it in your thoughts, Thalassa replied, her hologram appearing beside him with an expression of concern. It's too dangerous. Got a better idea? Dominic plotted a course toward the moon's dark side. If I can get close enough to the pod, our bond should allow me to activate its defense systems remotely, right? Theoretically, yes, but the Vraxians will detect you the moment you step onto the surface. Her holographic hand reached for his face, stopping just short of contact. And the final phase of our bonding remains incomplete. Without it, your abilities are limited. Dominic landed the ship in a crater far from the Vraxian landing party. Then maybe it's time to complete this bond. What do we need to do? Thalassa's form shimmered with emotion. The final union requires both mental and spiritual synchronization. Our essences must align completely. She hesitated. Dominic, you must understand this cannot be undone. You will no longer be fully human. We will exist as one being with two aspects, neither fully luminary nor fully Terran. What happens to you, to your consciousness? I will not be lost, she assured him. But neither will I remain separate. We will be together, in the most profound sense possible. Her eyes searched his. Are you certain this is what you want? Dominic thought about his life before finding the pod, the lonely salvage runs, the struggle to survive, the emptiness of endless space. Then he considered what he'd experienced since meeting Thalassa. Purpose, wonder, and a connection deeper than anything he'd known. I've never been more certain of anything, he said, removing the crystal from his pocket. How do we begin? Place the crystal over your heart, Thalassa instructed, her hologram growing brighter. Then open your mind completely, no barriers, no reservations. Dominic pressed the crystal to his chest and closed his eyes. Instantly, his consciousness expanded beyond anything he'd experienced before. He saw the universe not as a human perceives it, limited by biological senses, but as the luminary experienced it, a vast interconnected web of energy, matter, and possibility. He felt Thalassa's essence merging with his own, memories, emotions, knowledge flowing between them until it became impossible to distinguish where one ended and the other began. Her lifetime among the crystal cities of Lumina Prime became as real to him as his childhood on Earth. His human experiences of touch, taste, and physical sensation became hers to savor after centuries of existing as pure consciousness. When Dominic opened his eyes, he was transformed. His body remained human in form, but light coursed through his veins instead of blood. The patterns on his skin now pulsed with conscious energy, and he could feel the quantum threads connecting all matter around him. We are one, he spoke, his voice harmonizing with Thalassa's musical tones. Their thoughts flowed together in perfect synchrony. He stepped out onto the moon's surface without a spacesuit, his new physiology creating a field of energy that protected him from the vacuum. With each step, he left footprints of light that slowly faded behind him. The Vraxian soldiers detected him immediately. 6 tall, gray-skinned humanoids in black armor turned from the pod they were attempting to access, raising weapons that absorbed energy rather than emitting it. Luminary abomination, the leader hissed in a language Dominic understood perfectly through Thalassa's knowledge. Surrender the technology, and your death will be painless. Dominic raised his hand, connecting instantly with the pod through quantum entanglement. The alien artifact hummed to life, its surface glowing with the same patterns that covered his skin. "This is not your world," Dominic replied in the Vraxian tongue. "These are not your people to harvest. Leave now, and we will permit it." The Vraxians responded by firing their weapons. Dark energy lanced toward Dominic, designed to drain life force and consciousness. With a thought, he created a barrier of photonic energy that absorbed the attack and transmuted it into harmless light. "The union is complete," he said, his voice echoing across the lunar surface. "And you have made your choice." Dominic Thalassa raised both hands, accessing the quantum resonance weapon stored within the pod's core. Energy flowed from the pod through their shared consciousness and outward in a wave of brilliant light. The Vraxian weapon sputtered and died. Their armor, designed to absorb and store energy, began to crack as the resonance disrupted its fundamental structure. The Vraxian commander staggered backward. "What have you done?" "Broken your connection to stolen power," Dominic answered, advancing steadily. "Without your energy-draining technology, you are just mortal beings like any other." In orbit above, the Vraxian ships suffered the same fate, their systems failing as the resonance wave expanded outward. Disabled, they drifted helplessly in space. The Vraxian soldiers, realizing their vulnerability, retreated to their landing craft. Dominic made no move to stop them. Through Thalassa's memories, he understood that even the Luminari at the height of their power had refused to destroy life unnecessarily. When the last enemy ship had limped away into hyperspace, Dominic turned to the pod. With his enhanced abilities, he could now see it for what it truly was. Not just a vessel, but a seed, containing the essence of an entire civilization waiting to be reborn. He placed his hands on its surface, and the pod opened like a flower blossoming in sunlight. Inside, countless tiny crystals glowed with dormant consciousness, the preserved genetic and mental patterns of thousands of Luminari. "They can be restored," he whispered, feeling Thalassa's joy merging with his own. "But they'll need hosts, partners willing to share their existence." The answer came to them simultaneously. Earth, humanity. Two species at crossroads, both with something profound to offer the other. 6 months later, Dominic stood before the United Earth Council, the Luminari pod safely contained in a specially designed chamber behind him. His appearance, human form radiating with gentle light, had caused a sensation among Earth's population. "The Luminari offer humanity an evolutionary partnership," he explained to the assembled leaders. "Not an invasion or replacement, but a voluntary symbiosis. Those who choose to bond will gain extended life, enhanced abilities, and access to technology beyond our current understanding." "And what do the Luminari gain from this arrangement?" asked the council president. "Existence," Dominic answered simply. "The chance to live again, to experience the physical world through willing partners. To share, rather than to take." "What of these Vraxians?" another counselor asked. "Will they return?" "Eventually," Dominic acknowledged. "But by then, we will be ready. The resonance technology can be adapted to defend Earth and its colonies, and a united human Luminari civilization will be far stronger than either species alone." As the council deliberated, Dominic gazed out at the stars visible through the chamber's vast windows. Through Thalassa's memories, he recognized constellations, from perspectives impossible for any human to have witnessed, views from worlds thousands of light years from Earth. He felt her presence within him, distinct yet inseparable from his own consciousness. They were neither fully human nor fully Luminari now, but something new, a bridge between worlds, a beginning rather than an end. "Are you still you?" a counselor asked, interrupting his thoughts. "Or has this alien taken over your mind?" Dominic smiled. "I am more myself than I have ever been. The bond doesn't erase either consciousness. It enhances both. I remain Dominic Reed, but with Thalassa's memories, knowledge, and perspective added to my own. And she experiences human life through me." As the council voted unanimously to proceed with voluntary bonding protocols, Dominic felt a sense of completion that transcended individual satisfaction. What had begun as a desperate salvage operation on a forgotten moon had become the dawn of a new era for two civilizations. Later, standing alone on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, Dominic watched his homeworld turning below. Billions of lives continuing their daily existence, unaware of how profoundly everything was about to change. "They'll adapt," he whispered, knowing Thalassa could hear his thoughts. "Humans are good at that. We are good at that," came her reply within their shared mind. "And together, we will build something wonderful." A ship approached the station, the wayward Nomad, now upgraded with luminary technology, but still bearing its patched hull and mismatched plates. Dominic had insisted on keeping it that way, a reminder of where their journey had begun. He placed his hand against the viewport, leaving a brief impression of light that slowly faded. Somewhere on the planet below, the first voluntary human luminary bonding would soon take place. The universe, vast and mysterious as it was, suddenly seemed full of infinite possibility. "Not a bad outcome," Dominic said with a smile, "for a salvage operator who was flat broke." He felt Thalassa's amusement ripple through their bond. "The universe," she replied, "has always had a talent for unlikely miracles." As the Earth turned beneath them, Dominic Reed, once a lonely salvager, now something more than human, prepared to guide two civilizations into a shared future that neither could have imagined alone.